week, same day, same time, we were here, you know, navigating this conversation and unpacking it about postpartum depression. And I was joined by an amazing, amazing panelist, a lady who is a victor when it comes to matter postpartum, and also an expert on matters postpartum, mental health, and all that. So this morning, again, we are here for part 2 due to public demand to continue with this conversation that cannot just be done in one sitting. And that's why we're here, back here to continue with our conversation on navigating postpartum depression. What's more interesting today is that we'll also be talking about men. Actually, men do go about, you know, go through postpartum depression. My name is Sally Limo. Join me on 20316 together with my panelists. That's our SMS line. And then on WhatsApp, 0786 316 316. It's our WhatsApp line where you can send in your questions, comments, and even compliments. Karibuni sana, ladies, and thank you so much again for making time today.
Thank you.
I think for the sake of those ones who will be joining us today for the first time and viewing you people and even hearing you, we'll do another round of, you know, introduction. Mukami.
Yeah, my name is Mukami. I call myself a champion for mental health because through lived experience, I have been able to navigate the mental health space. I would not say I have fully understood it, but I have learned a lot. And yeah, so I use my lived experience to just encourage other people going through similar experiences.
Okay,
Yeah.
something close to advocacy.
Yeah.
About. Okay, Karibu sana,
Thank you.
Daktari.
Yes. Yes, good morning, our viewers. My name is Dr. Beatrice Mainge. I am a counseling psychologist by profession and a mental health practitioner, working with different groups, just helping people to navigate through various psychological issues, including what we are discussing this morning, postpartum depression and other psychological issues.
Right.
Yeah, that's so I'm in active practice in the mental health space. Yes.
And you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you, sir.
Karibuni sana. So
asante.
just to, you know, start us off, Mukami, this morning. Last week we touched on, you know, a bit of the postpartum, how you navigated the journey and all that. But from where you sit, do you think there's an information gap when it comes to matters postpartum depression?
Yes, there is a big gap because most people do not understand what it means to have baby blues, what it means to have postpartum, and what it means to have psychosis. And I think the doctor will define those terms properly. But you see, the thing with postpartum depression is that it's not a mother's burden only. You cannot have a mother without a father. You cannot have a woman without friends and family. So when there is that gap, you find that depression is something that the community has to really support you. Otherwise, you can't manage depression alone. So when people are not aware of even the simple symptoms of depression, when one is going into a depressive state, even when your partner is going through a depressive state, you don't know, that knowledge gap is what creates the problem. So when you're aware of what to look at, it's easy for someone to recognize their partner, themselves, their loved one is going through postpartum depression. But when there's no that awareness, you wouldn't know. You'll just say, oh, she became a mother, she's one of the things about depression is that you tend to isolate. So people will be just like, I called her once, she didn't pick. I texted her, she didn't. And you see, we live in a situation where people are moving on with their life. So if there's that gap, people will not be aware of what to do.
And I like what you've just talked about, the symptoms. People need to know those symptoms, Daktari. What are some of those symptoms that, as Mukami is saying, people should look out for?
Yes, like she has mentioned some of them. Isolation is one of them. So you find that someone doesn't want to relate with the family and even friends. Then you also find a lot of sadness that is not going away, a lot of hopelessness, you know. And when it gets to the extreme, you find that someone may even start, you know, wanting to hurt the baby or even themselves. Then you'll also look at their physical appearance. Some of them will let themselves go they are not taking care of themselves, they are not taking a shower, you know, and then there is a lot of, you know, extreme sleepiness, or maybe no sleep at all. Then sometimes people lose appetite, they are not eating, they are not feeding, and so this starts to affect their physical health. You'll find that they also become suddenly quiet, they are not talking. So you'll just find that someone, if you have known them well, you'll see just that sudden change. It may not be sudden. Sometimes it is gradual. It starts slowly, and then it goes on building. So if there is no intervention, this is when it can graduate into now what we are calling the psychosis, the full-blown now mental illness. Yeah, so those are some of the things that you'll see. And then someone even stops caring for the baby. It's like they even stop breastfeeding the baby. They don't want to even hold the baby. So you'll just see that detachment starting to happen. Those are some of the symptoms.
Okay, and just still on that, Dr. because already now you're on that, the psychosis, you've just mentioned that. And Mukami also started by saying there's you know, baby blues, there's psychosis, and there's also postpartum depression. Probably just in a nutshell, what is that all about? What's the difference between the three?
The difference is that now the baby blues, it happens to almost every mother. Because of the sudden change. You know, giving birth is a life-changing event.
Indeed.
There is a new member of the family. There's a lot of demands from the baby. So most mothers actually go through the baby blues. But this lasts between, you know, from the day the baby is born up to about 2 weeks, and then it goes away. So it's short term. But if there is no intervention, or if the mother is actually suffering from postpartum depression, then it will go, it is longer. Postpartum depression is longer, and the symptoms are what we have just described, the sadness, the hopelessness. You know, you just see that the mother is changing, and they have no joy, you know, and then they start feeling guilty because someone, you know, should celebrate the birth of a child. But now here, the mother is feeling sad, feeling depressed, isolating themselves. But with intervention and if sometimes with medication, this also goes away. Then there is the third level, which we call the postpartum psychosis. Now this is more complicated because this is a full-blown mental illness, and the person now kind of loses touch with the reality. They become delusional. You know, even the speech, the things they are saying are not, you know, it's like they sound like out of touch. They also they start hallucinating. You know, they become paranoid. You know, becoming highly suspicious. Someone is going to harm the baby. You know, they start having some very strange ideas. So this is now a mental illness, and it is something that anyone can see that this person, even the things they are talking, are not, you know, normal, quote unquote. And so this is actually, we call this a medical emergency that needs to be treated almost immediately, because it can actually result into someone harming themselves or even harming the baby. So sometimes even when we read about mothers who have harmed their babies, someone has thrown the baby in the toilet, or they have actually injured them. You know, this is someone who has actually suffered a mental illness. And that's why when you asked about the knowledge gap, I think that becomes very important. Because, you know, sometimes we will condemn such mothers. We'll think they don't have the nurturing gift, like the motherly instinct. How can you do that to your own child? You know, not knowing that this person is actually sick. And some of them actually even end up ending their own lives because of the guilt. Why am I not happy that I have a baby? What will people say? So now, so those are the three levels. The baby blues that last for about 2 weeks. The postpartum depression that lasts for, you know, maybe 6 months, 1 year, but when treated and with good intervention, it goes away. And it affects about 1 in 10 mothers. But the psychosis is more rare, because the postpartum psychosis affects about 1 in 1,000 mothers. It is not as common as the postpartum depression or even the baby blues.
All right.
Yes, yes.
Oh, fantastic. And yes, that at this point, then I bring you Mukami. Remember last week we talked about, you know, the way from Nairobi Hospital, you went to see the babies, and after that you just drove the car to Ruiru, I think. No lights, it's dark. So have you ever had, like, you know, harmful thoughts crossing your mind, probably to harm yourself, to harm the baby at that time when, you know, he was younger? Have you gone through that?
What I went through was the intrusive thoughts of self-harm, not to harm the baby, but probably to end my life because I was feeling a bit overwhelmed. Not a bit, I was a lot overwhelmed. And, you know, just being in hospital and first watching your first child pass away, and then you have these two others on life support, and then again they're getting better, they're getting unwell, they're getting better, they're well, and then you see you're not in isolation. We would watch other babies also pass on, and because we had created a bond with their mothers, it felt like we've lost our own. So it was very overwhelming. And then now my second baby passing, and then I had a fragile one. For me it was too much, to be honest, and I was like, what if I just end it? The thing about intrusive thoughts and wanting to end your life is it's not usually like you want a way out. It's more of you want the suffering to end. So if there is another solution for the suffering to end, then you would take it. But as we are right now, it becomes that taking your own life is a better solution. So that's why people opt for it. And for a long time in Kenya, suicide was attempted suicide was a crime. So if you survive the suicide attempt, you're taken to court. Sometimes you're beaten. And you see, this is the knowledge gap we're talking about. That even authorities, the police, the community don't know that just attempting or even thinking about it is a cry for help, that you need medical attention. So, and that's what I mentioned to you yesterday about first aid for depression and all types of depression and other illnesses, is that you need to be able to at least validate what they are feeling. Whatever it is they are feeling, validate it. Because if you find someone attempting to do it, you don't beat them, or you don't tell them, let's wait until he, you know, you really need to understand what is going on. And there is a lot of help. There are so many hospitals that actually give free counseling. We have even public hospitals that have resident psychologists. We have private doctors who will also see you for free if there is need. So as for me, I had support. You see. But not everyone does. And whether it's even for men or women or anyone who really feels like that, it's hard to say it because it looks like a coward's way out. So it's really hard to talk about it. And maybe later you feel very guilty because you're like, so I would have taken my life and then left my child with who? So it ends up being another spiral down, that you're feeling guilty and you can't talk to anyone because these feelings are not welcome by society.
Yeah, I think what Doc, you've also said that, you know, you find a mother who's dumped the baby, hitting them and doing all those sort of things. You know, the judicial system, the police, the administration, you know, that judgment. That judgment. How then should you know, the society probably then handle this? You know, apart from now sensitizing them and all that, what else can people do out there when you realize that someone actually is into that state of psychosis? The first aid we're talking about, quote unquote, we were laughing with Mokami yesterday and saying first aid sounds funny, yes, but it's really important. What can they do?
I think besides the public awareness, like what we are doing, because we say knowledge is power. Once people understand that this is a problem, and a mother who is harming the baby or trying to harm themselves is actually sick. So that is the awareness that needs to be created, and also to have referral pathways, because like now, one thing the government has done that is good is having what we call the community health promoters, and these ones are in the grassroots, and they are able to visit the families, maybe new mothers, and just give them support, and also refer them to a place where they can get help, because like we are saying, when someone has the postpartum depression, they need to be informed that help is available, like what Mukami is saying, that they can go for therapy, and then also encouraging the society to support new mothers. Sometimes we may think that they are okay, maybe this is the third child. And postpartum depression can happen at any stage. You may have a mother who went through, delivery, and they didn't have a problem with the first baby, the second baby, and then it happens during the third child. So it's a matter of offering that kind of support, and also encouraging them to have psychosocial support groups, like new mothers, coming together just to help one another understand this is what I'm going through, and this is how I'm managing. Because sometimes when someone has a problem, they may think I'm the only one. And actually, when you're feeling sad and you have a new baby, it is not something you'd be very comfortable sharing, because people will think, hey, what kind of mother are you? You're not celebrating the birth of your child. So they would want to keep that information to themselves. So it's a matter of making people aware that this is actually a condition that many mothers go through, and you can share with other mothers, and you can get information as what to do. So it's a matter of pointing people to where help can be availed, and also creating this awareness, and the promoters, the community health promoters, being equipped with intervention skills, so that when there is a new mother, they need to be aware that this is a person who may require support. So we may need to visit those homes where people have babies, and just support them, and also inform the family that this person requires a lot of support at this time when they have this new baby. Yes.
You've talked about support, and I like that, because Mukami has a safe space that she gives support to people. She may not be a counselor like she's saying, but there's something she's doing just to ensure that they support Mukami. So can you just probably talk about that? What happens there for you to support these other mothers or people who come in with different issues?
I forgot to say something, that as of last year, the court decriminalized suicide. So I hope that the administration knows that suicide is no longer a crime. It's more of a mental health issue. So for me, I have something called the Mukami Circle. So it is, I call it rebellion against suffering in silence, because sometimes we go through so much and you don't know who to tell, and you don't know where to go. So Mukami Circle is a safe space where we are not having a counselor or a life coach or a professional coming to tell us what to do. It is a place where mothers, it's targeted at different groups. So our event, we have an event next week. It's for grieving mothers. So it's a place where we want grieving mothers to come, because most of the times you can't even talk about the child who passed on. Maybe you didn't even have a name because they died in hospital. Maybe you're not supposed to remember. Maybe it was a miscarriage. All this is loss, and you're a mother and you're grieving. So we have created a place where you come, we sit together, we cry together, and then we heal together. Yes. Fantastic. So that is why I'm saying it's for me, it's from my lived experience, because there are moments where I felt I don't have space to share what I'm feeling, and even if I share with my friends and my family who are very supportive, they won't understand where I'm coming from because this is not a path they've worked with. They will sympathize with me, they will console me, but they might not really understand, you know. So for me, I'm just giving people something that I really needed. And our next event in May is going to be for women who have tried to conceive, who are on the conception journey. So we're just having different groups of people going through different things, and hopefully we will also open up to men, and because also men cry.
They do, absolutely.
So that's the
beautiful you know, space there for women for now, but then again you're saying even men at some point might be welcome into that circle. Daktari, as we still speak about support, you know, you're with the family, and also friends. Like Mukami had beautiful support, but sometimes you have family and friends who don't even know. You as the mom who's going through you don't even know what you're going through. They also don't know what you're going through. What kind of support then can they offer, or how do they go about it?
All right, I think self-care requires for us to speak out about, you know, the help that we require, or even speak out about what we are feeling, what we are going through. And it is true that the mother may not be aware of, they may not have a name for what they're feeling. But now the close family members, and that is why I like what you are doing this morning, because it's about creating awareness. And some people will look back and say, so this is why my wife was behaving this way, or our mom was behaving this way. She was going through what they are calling postpartum depression. So, so it's about speaking out. It's about reaching out. It's about the family being made aware of the kind of support that they need to give to the mother. It's about the mother also accepting help, you know, because there are times when someone clings to the baby and they don't even want to touch the baby, they don't help, you know. So self-care requires that you know, when you take care of yourself, like you get some time to sleep, you know, to feed well. You're not putting yourself first before the baby. You're not saying me first. You're saying me too. Because you see, you cannot pour from an empty cup. If the mother is suffering, the baby will suffer too, you know. And maybe I could say this before I forget. Some of the issues that we are observing with teenagers today, issues of addiction, issues of mental health challenges, some of them can be traced back to their upbringing, the way the mother was during pregnancy and after birth. Because if a mother rejects the baby because of the maybe circumstances of the birth, because you know, unfortunately there are mothers who conceive through rape, unfortunately, or maybe some pregnancies are unplanned, and so you don't expect that mother to celebrate the birth of the baby. So there will be rejection, there will be neglect of the baby. And some of these problems of addiction and mental health challenges among teenagers and among even young adults can be traced back to what we are discussing this morning, postpartum depression. Because a mother who is depressed will, of course, neglect the baby. Sometimes they'll even hurt the baby without anyone knowing, you know, pinching and, you know, neglecting and not changing the diapers in good time. They don't hear the baby cry. The cry of the baby is annoying to them. And so this rejection actually makes the child, that actually is a risk factor when you talk about addiction later in life. So that's why this conversation is very important.
Very important. And I like what you're saying, because there's a book I was reading by probably Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Perry, and the title is What Happened to You? And I was surprised to learn that, you know, they were talking about even when a baby is pretty small and they're crying there and you're just like, you keep crying there. It gets into them. It goes into the subconscious and they grow up with that. So that's, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Daktari. Very, very important. And, you know, this conversation is getting deep, and we almost forgot that we're supposed to go for a break. Thank you so much, my director, for that reminder. And indeed, we are here to give you the solutions, to talk about, not all the solutions maybe, but keep sending in your questions, keep sending in your concerns on 20316, SMS line 0786 316 316 is our WhatsApp line. Mukami is here to answer your questions, Daktari is here to answer your questions, and we'll be right back after this.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
Welcome back to Parenting Tuesday in a very interesting, insightful, informative conversation that we are having here, navigating postpartum depression, which apparently also happens with men. But before we get into the conversation, remember that this Friday we have a very special prayer circle, episode this Friday. Don't forget that it is the Easter Friday. We'll be there, and our theme is, celebrating Jesus Christ, the power of the cross. So join us on Friday, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. I will be there, and I want to also see you there. Karibuni back to the conversation. And, Daktari, before that, Daktari was talking, but now we're coming back to you in terms of communication. Communication is important for all of us as human, even for animals, they communicate. How was your communication like with your baby, the surviving baby, as you're even going through all these challenges of, the mental health issues, the grief? How was it like?
I think for us, communication started when they were in the incubators, when you couldn't touch them. So you'd probably go and talk to them. I would sing for them. And then for the surviving child, we did kangaroo mother care. So you would talk to them, you would make jokes, you would, So I think you even now when I sing to my son, the song I used to sing for him when he was in the incubator, he remembers it. I used to sing, God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. So for me it was a love song for him. The road was broken, but I have him. So he still remembers it. And of course he responds, children respond to love. And I remember when I was kangarooing the one who passed on, he was fidgeting. He looked like he was in pain. So I started crying and he started crying. And so like you have to calm down for him to calm down. And I remember he was okay, like he had gone through the test, and he was still in the resuscitator bed and the life support because he was still a bit critical. But when the one who left was going to tell him bye, like he actually like cried, became so uncomfortable. It was so like, it's like we were separating them. And I think he got worse after that, like after we left the hospital, because I remember even when they were about a month and they both had he's the one who had pneumonia, the other one also got pneumonia, I don't know how. But now when we were leaving the hospital, he actually cried when his baby brother was leaving, and from there on he never made it past a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. Daktari, let's talk about the men. I think in all this, we normally forget about them. We assume they're macho, they're strong, they don't go. Do they go through postpartum depression? How is it like for them? And what are some of the symptoms? Do they manifest the same symptoms as women?
Yes, and thank you for that question, because yes, it is true. Fathers also go through postpartum depression.
Right.
Because like I said, though they have not carried the baby in their wombs, when the mother is pregnant, there will be those challenges, the sleeplessness, and of course it will affect the man. And when the baby comes, this is a new member of the family with a lot of demands. there will be a change in the sleeping patterns, because the baby will wake up at any time, and so it also disturbs the fathers. And again, there's also that feeling that someone has come to take their space, because the mother will be caring for the baby, holding the baby, and the father is, okay, this is my baby, but he has come to take my space, in my, my wife seems to, all her attention seems to have diverted to the baby, and here I am, left alone. So, and because like we say that having a new baby is a life-changing experience, not just for the mother, but also for the father. So they go through the same. They go through the sadness, the hopelessness, the withdrawal, and they also affect the appetite, the sleeplessness, and it is good for people to understand that. It's good for people to understand that the fathers go through the same. Actually, almost the same percentage, like 1 in 10. And they also require support, just like the mother, maybe by talking to other fathers who have new babies, and also looking for help, maybe seek therapy when it gets worse, when it starts affecting their... When it starts affecting their everyday life, you will find that some fathers will even stop going to work. Yes, I know that there is that leave of 2 weeks if they are working with government, but you find beyond the 2 weeks, they are not ready to report to work, and that is when you tell that actually this man is also suffering. You will also see the physical changes. If they are not feeding well, they are not sleeping well, they are not taking care of themselves, and so it is good to understand and appreciate that the fathers go through the same. And that's why I like what many people are doing, also having interventions for the boy child, because sometimes we forget the boy child. You're saying you're supposed to be strong. Men don't cry. You should not show your sadness. You're struggling to the public. We say, when I went to the NYS, and we were being told that if you feel like fainting, uanguke kiaskari. So even the men are supposed to uanguka kiaskari, but they suffer too, and they need help just like the mother. Yes.
Mukami, probably, what if you're to create a memory for your kids, a creative one, what would it be?
I've actually done a few. So I have a picture of triplets, a boy and a girl standing on this side, and the other boy on this side. So the two have hearts that angel wings, and the other one is here. So it's more, and it says some triplets don't walk side by side, some are watching from heaven. For me, I think it makes sense to even my son, because he knows he has a brother and a sister, but they don't have to work together. I also have another signboard that says, because there's, so we say, I don't remember the exact wording, but it says there's a piece, there's someone we love in heaven. So like there's a piece of us in heaven, and then it's written the dates of when the kids passed on. We did not get to bury them, and I've always felt like that was something we should have done, because it gives you closure. And for me, I've always made it a point that I'm not going to keep quiet about it. I'm going to continue remembering them. Even on their birthdays, I still celebrate them, because most people are like, you should, like, it Elisha, wachana nayo, but I'm like, that was a living being. It was a child, and that's why I always tell moms, whether you miscarried at 1 month, you had a stillbirth, you're still a mom, and you lost a part of you. And so for me, one thing that the hospital did for closure, because the babies died when they were in hospital, like the baby girl after 2 days, and I hadn't really even held her. So usually they bring the child for you to hold after they've removed the pipes and everything. because it gives you closure. It's difficult.
Yeah.
But at least you get to hold your baby, and you may not understand or you may not say the words you need to say right there, but at least you're able to close that chapter. I don't know. Okay, you can't really close it, but you're able to hold your baby and say, at least I held them. And it looks brutal, but for me it helped because I got some closure. I think, I don't know about naming, but for us, we had already named the child, the children. So at least we get to refer to them by names. And we gave them an identity because they existed.
Fantastic. Doc, probably, you know, briefly about the naming bit that Mukami said, because it was a question that was to come up. That very briefly, how important is that when it comes to healing? And then now let's speak about the triggers of PPD.
Okay, the naming becomes important because you are recognizing that this is a person, because a human being needs to have a name.
Right.
And so even when you talk about the child, you'll be talking about so-and-so, not that baby. You know, because when the baby doesn't have a name, there's some detachment. It's, you know, it's just like something. But this is a human being that was, like Mukami saying, this was part of you. And so when you talk to them and you refer to them by their name, it's also respectful. So that I recognize that this was so-and-so, and this is what happened to them, and this is what I went through. So it kind of gives you a connection, a connection with this person, and it's respectful, and it also, you know, acknowledging that this was a person, because you know, like last time we talked about disenfranchised grief, where people say, you know, that she didn't have a name, she didn't even get to breastfeed. You know, it's like you're supposed to forget quickly, but when you give a name, it means that these are part of you. You acknowledge them, and you respect that they existed, the few minutes or the few hours that they did, but then something happened that you're now, you know, healing from.
So let's speak about the triggers of, you know, postpartum depression. What are some of the triggers?
Some of the triggers would include maybe past experience with depression, because some of the mothers who go through postpartum depression would have maybe a history of depression, you know, for themselves, or maybe even a family history of depression. If in the family there are people who suffer depression, then this is that if something happens, then it escalates very, very quickly. The other thing would be the nature of the pregnancy, if it was difficult, you know, because even when we assess people for mental illness, especially child psychiatry, one of the fundamental questions that we ask is, how was the pregnancy? Was it difficult? Because if it is difficult, then this would trigger depression. Also, was it planned? You know, if this pregnancy was not planned, some of the, like I mentioned there before, there are mothers who get pregnant through rape. And so you would imagine that that mother, it would not be easy for them to celebrate this child. You know, the triggers also, actually nutrition would also be a trigger, because when a mother is pregnant, they are feeding for two people. And the system is very cruel in the body. If the mother is not eating enough, the body will still get the nutrients from the mother to feed the baby. Actually, the baby is given priority even by the system. And so those are some of the triggers. Also, when there is no support, you know, the mother is not getting support. Maybe they are going through difficulties, and there is no one to reach out to. So those are some of the triggers of postpartum depression.
You know, there's I can see some feedback here. Someone says, "Good morning, Sally. I feel so sad for Mukami. Her eye speaks volume. May God give her peace of mind and peace at heart. Let her know her story is an inspiration, a lesson, and encouragement to so many women and men who can speak out." Mukami, that's for you. Hi, Sally. Say hi to Doc and Nelly. What a story we have there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that feedback. And probably just coming back to you, Mukami. Daktari has talked about nutrition being very important. Yeah. How was your nutrition like, you know, pre, during, and post?
I would say my nutrition was really good because number one, I had difficulty in conceiving. So I had to go through assisted assisted methods. That meant I actually prepared for pregnancy. So about 6 months, for about 8 to 6 months, I was on a very, very natural diet. I remember I even used the old wives' tales about keeping your feet warm, not taking anything cold. I would do the avocados and pineapples, and I don't know, something about eating the whole pineapple. And I was on natural foods, like no processed foods, no sugars. I was exercising. I didn't have polish on my hands for like 6 months. Like I was really into the whole preparing my body psychologically and physically. And then now through the fertility treatments, there are also meals that you should avoid. I remember some of them were like cheese. I don't know why, but I just, you know, like, and I was working with another group of women who are going through the same, so we would exchange ideas. Cold feet equals cold uterus, so we would keep our feet warm. We wouldn't, just weird things, but the diet was really strict. Of course, during pregnancy, I really didn't eat a lot because I had a very, my morning sickness was horrible. I would vomit anything I ate. I survived on, I think, soup ya skuma and water, you know. And I was put on the drip so many times because of dehydration. And then after that, my diet was really good because I was in hospital. So I was eating food in hospital for the 3 months I was there. Like I would carry maybe snacks, and then lunchtime we would eat at the hospital. And then because of, I think, moving around a lot and having to pump milk because you weren't breastfeeding, so the diet was really strict. But now after I left hospital, that became another whole story. I was a bit unhealthy, and then I was eating, and then of course, you know, depression makes you become unhealthy habits. So that's when I messed up with my diet after I left hospital.
Awesome. Imagine you have like 2 minutes left, Daktari. I don't know if there's anything you may want to say as you're parting shot very briefly to get to the end of it.
I think the one of the things I would want to emphasize is the connection between postpartum depression and addiction and mental health challenges among teenagers. Maybe I needed to mention that I sit in the Kenya Board of Mental Health, and these are some of the awareness that we are creating. I also work in a mental health facility. It's called Nobility House Treatment Center. And one of the assessments we do is what we call adverse childhood experiences. And one of the issues that we find among people who have addiction and mental illness is that living with a mother who has a mental illness. And mental illness is what we are discussing today. Maybe postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis. These are some of the issues that trigger or make it risky for a teenager to become an addict later in life or to suffer mental health challenges. Because a mother who has postpartum depression, a mother who has postpartum psychosis, will neglect the baby, they will hurt the baby, they will, you know, the things they will do to the children will actually become either a risk factor in addiction or even mental illness. I need to bring out that connection because just to create awareness.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope I'll be given more time to do. This should be a series, like this whole month should be. This is an amazing conversation, and I do believe so far you've learned a lot. I'm sure you've gained so much information, and even then, if you missed our part 1, part 2, all this information is on our YouTube channel. And also, if you want to connect with Daktari or Mukami, please just write in and we'll be able to send you their contacts. I just want to say asante sana for your time, for your feedback. We really appreciate it. And also a special thanks to that special group of people, that special community that has been standing with us for the last 25 years to ensure that we bring you such amazing, clean, educative content. Those are our partners. And, you know, if you want to be part of this amazing community, then you can send the word partner to 20316 SMS line or 0786 316 316 our WhatsApp line. And if you want to send your contribution, your support, you can do that through paybill number 316 316. The account number shall be your telephone number. God bless you and keep you. Let's meet again tomorrow on Matters Finances, when we'll be discussing financing agribusiness with NCBA Bank. See you then.